Laura, you all set with attendance? Oh, good? Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the school board minutes from February 5th, 2026.
So moved.
Any omissions, additions? We went past that, Dawn, already. Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
Thank you, Dawn. The motion carries. I will entertain a motion to approve the school board minutes from February 12th, 2026.
Second.
Any additions, subtractions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Thank you. Motion carries. No communications. Jeremy Gath.
Thank you. So I'm a teacher at the high school here. I'm also the coach of the Spruce Mountain esports team, and my team asked me to give one last possible plea to see if we could maybe find some money in the budget for next year to possibly save the program. I know money is tight, but we feel, and personally I think this is a very valuable program for our district. We've been a very successful team. For our 5 years of operation, we've made playoffs every single year. And often for the students in our program, this is the very first sport they have ever played. Because of our schedule, we're one of the easiest for parents to drop off as well as pick up kids after school from just 2 to 4. Our games are very consistent too. And just like any sport, that provides a lot of value for kids to give them some of the grit. I mean, we've had some moments of tears just because winning, losing, it's a very exciting and hard thing. And for some of these kids, they've never been to even a little league game before this point. And that carries some value in and of itself. I mean, we've had a lot of successful plans about possibly expanding, doing playoff games here in the cafeteria if we could possibly do that, so we could get some more interest and some more basically community sport as well, because we kind of run our own separate. We're actually in the middle of our spring season right now, and that's wild considering that it's February, but that's just how the schedule is right now. Excuse me, sorry about that. As a team too, you get a lot for just having one coach in the team. At some seasons, I've managed 5 separate teams. This season, I'm managing 4 teams. We don't have too many members right now. I'm hoping to change that. Our numbers have gone from sometimes having just 2 to sometimes having 12. And it's usually because our teams are so small that it's hard to get that critical mass in order to get players interested so they can play. But I'm confident that next year, if we do still have a program, we'd be able to run. If you are still looking to save money, here are some possible ideas on maybe how to do it. We currently run 2 seasons, a spring season and a fall season. And if I were looking to cut one season, it would be the spring one, simply because we are always more successful in our fall season. And that would probably have the budget right there. The other thing possibly that you could do is, and I've seen other schools do this too, we do have a couple of computers that we use for our esports games. And I know some schools that actually run a program where they take some of our older esports computers and then they use them in other parts of the district to save money. Since they're designed for video games, they're usually a bit on the higher end. So even if they don't work for us as a team, they can work just as fine running Microsoft Office or any other type of program out there too. Our school library already uses half of our computers for a lot of their art projects as well, and those wouldn't have been purchased without the program even existing in the first place. So I think there are some opportunities where we could maybe scrape together, find some cash for this thing in order to get it work. But unfortunately, the program does need a coach to run. That is the most expensive component, so hopefully maybe we can find something for that. Yeah, thanks.
Ellen?
Hello, thank you once again for the opportunity to speak about the budget. It is an achievement to keep the budget increase as low as it is, and I know everyone has made sacrifices to do so. However, limiting library services cuts to the heart of the academic mission of the school. We have one librarian covering 4 buildings and providing academic support to students, while ed techs keep the doors open and students engage when the librarian is not present. Maintaining the ed tech position preserves access to library resources and continuity for students' projects and activities. A lot of bang for the buck. The committee must find a way to preserve this position rather than risking library closure and the expense of a substitute. I'd also like to address the gifted and talented position. It's alarming to me that there's so little understanding of the needs of gifted and talented students, who are actually a subset of special education. It's tempting to believe that smart students will do fine, but these students are more than smarts. They are often divergent thinkers and have unusual aptitudes. Without academic and creative opportunities that recognize their gifts, they become intellectually isolated, often leading to depression or anxiety in its many forms in this age group, and sometimes disruptive behavior. GT is more than delivering a program. It requires a teacher who is trained to recognize these traits in students and can provide the opportunities for them to grow into their own potential. And I'd just like to give a shout out to Deb Probert, who retired many years ago, but to me was the paragon of a GT teacher. She found kids with special talents from the entire school district, and to me, she is the model of what a GT teacher should be. As difficult as it has been to find a gifted and talented teacher, the restructuring of the program to be both GT and English for speakers of other languages make it even more unlikely to find someone trained and certified in both areas, and that's what's required, training and certification. So while it may be a budget gimmick this year to have this hybrid program in place, in future years, I hope that both GT and ESOL are given their due respect with teachers who are adequately trained so that students have the opportunity to benefit from these programs. Thank you.
Board comments. Mason?
Good evening. First thing is, next week here at the high school, the school will be participating in our winter carnival. So that's going to be throughout the week. We have hallway decorating. All the classes do hallway decorating. And we have events throughout the week, and then a dance on, I believe, Saturday or Friday night. Next, the girls basketball varsity team defeated Wells 51-29 in their regional championship game on the 21st, and they will be competing at the state championship this Saturday against Marina Cook for the Golden Ball at the Civic Center. The one-act competition team will be competing at Scout Hegan in the MPA one-act competition, performing the play Whistle Stop, March 7th at 12:30. Our high school robotics team has been hard at work preparing for this year's competition. They will be competing in Falmouth next week. Next week at the Pine Tree District event, Saturday and Sunday. They have also been working with special education students on unified robotics. This is the first unified program in our district. So this is a mixture of general education students and special education students working together to compete. They've been doing this for about 7 weeks, and they'll be competing on a Lego League table, kind of like the middle school. And then finally, the team just wanted to let the board know and thank the community. We are now at UMF, and we thank the school for their support in letting us get to UMF. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mason. Ooh, that was loud. Any other board comments?
I just want to comment, I attended the Foster Tech Board meeting along with Scott Albert, and just to let the student body know, it's going to be very competitive to get into that school. The programs are filling up fast. So work on your grades, work on your skill sets to make yourselves different so you can apply to be in there. The biggest capital expense they got this year is they're upgrading their 30-year-old skidder for the forestry program, and after a nationwide search, they found one with a grapple and a cable for a reasonable price, so that program will be in place. But check those programs out. It's a unique opportunity this area has for the kids to get a very good skill set.
I am so sorry.
Use that one. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay, is it good now? Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay. Okay, so first, before I start with my regular board comment, I do want to applaud our teams. Mason did a wonderful job covering everybody, but I thought they deserved a round of applause before we start anything else. All right, now that I have this mic figured out. Before February vacation, we did a free book event. We gave away more than 5,000 books. While each child was allowed to take up to 10, and we know what the general population is, you're thinking, wait, the math isn't mathing. That doesn't include the series. We count those as one. So we have the Wayside book collection. That's 21 books in one set. We count that as one. Series set, we count that as one because they shouldn't have to use all 10 books trying to get a series. So more than 5,000 books were given out at the elementary school for our kids. And while I was there, there were kids who weren't all that interested in reading. There was one boy who said, "I hate reading." Obvious reasons, I'm not going to use their name for privacy, but they said, "Can't I just get one of the toys?" And I told him, "You have to get at least one book to qualify to get one of the little fidgets that we have." And he went, "Fine." So he goes, and I didn't think much of it. I thought, okay, he'll get one book and that'll be that. Well, I saw him line up at the end and he had 2 books. And I was excited to see he had 2. I went up and I said, "So what toy did you get?" Because I was generally curious. He's like, "I forgot about the toy." He had completely forgotten, and he was in line reading that book after telling me emphatically that he hated reading. That's why we do these book fairs. That's why I've worked tirelessly to make sure that these kids could get books in their hands. We talk about places like Scholastic, and they do a wonderful job. I am not by any means diminishing their work, but we live in an area where we don't have a lot of disposable income. Our families don't have that disposable income. And I remember being one of those kids where I go to a book fair, and I was lucky if I could find something in the discount bin. Some of the book costs these days are astronomical. So to be able to see someone who went from "I hate reading" to standing in line and reading, and he wasn't the only one. There were other kids who were like, "I don't like reading," and I saw them in line reading their books. It was just a wonderful experience, and that's why we do these things for the kids. So I also want to give a shout out to Elaine because she makes a wonderful, wonderful campaign for me. She did the video all in one take. I had asked her to do it, and all in one take, we did a video of her giving an introduction to it, and she did phenomenal. So I do want to give a shout out, and as well as the teachers that came and helped me unload the books and set it up. You don't really think about how many books you have when you're gathering them until you have to unload them from your vehicle and load them on tables. But the teachers, they all work together to help me, and I greatly appreciate all of their efforts, as well as the custodians for helping me clean up after the fact and deal with the empty boxes that had been damaged along the way. So I do want to thank our community for allowing me to do that.
Not to overdo this, Phoebe doesn't give herself 1/4 of the credit she deserves. How she collected all of these books by going to free book events, places that sponsor free books for kids. I mean, we're talking in the package. They were fantastic. And the setup, the school, the elementary school was great with helping us out when we arrived there. She brought 3 vehiclefuls. Yeah. I actually got my husband out of bed and said, "You're going to come help us." We were set up by 8:30. We were torn down after giving out that amount of books, and everything was ready to get the gym back in place at the elementary school by 9:30. That's pretty amazing. We ran grades 3, 4, 5, special ed kids. Everything came through. Kids had bags for all of their things. It was exciting. It was a privilege to be there, Phoebe. But Phoebe deserves a huge round of applause because she does this twice a year. All our kids benefit, and that's what it's all about. Thank you, Phoebe.
Any other board comments? Okay, Wayne.
Good evening. Pretty short and sweet tonight. During the break, February break, we had a few people that were on vacation, but we were still able to get some extra cleaning, some waxing of some of the rooms, and a few rooms, small rooms painted over vacation. And the only other thing I have is we've just had one employee that has left the high school here at night. So right now I'm down to using 30 and 40-hour employees to help clean the place. So right now I have one job opening here at the high school. So that's about all I have.
Questions for Wayne?
Thank you.
Thank you. Norma?
Thanks. It's hard to come back. It's all right, see the tan? Right. Not a lot to report, just coming back from vacation week. We have another custodian who has received his school bus driver's license. He'll be a regular custodian, sub-bus driver when needed. I'm going to be attending a Transportation Directors Conference on March 10th and 11th in Rockport. I believe it's the DOE gives 100 of us a grant to attend this. They pay for our room, our meals, and everything, so it's an awesome training. We will be going over safe driving and student management, child harness systems on buses, and safety driving and student management, which comes first. I'll also be attending a McKinney-Vento Spring Regional Meeting on March 26th. This meeting will include updates from the main DOE, opportunities to learn about new resources. Government Mills signed an executive order in January to ensure bus safety measures due to the 2 deaths that were, and that includes any buses over 2021, which is the federal government's already covered that. The new buses from there already come with crossing guards. President Trump has passed an emissions policy. We'll be going back to the 2008 emissions where we will not need 2 DEF tanks, which is fantastic news. We'll remain with 1 as of right now. And that's all I have. We still have 2 drivers out on indefinite medical leave, so we're using our 40-hour drivers quite a bit. That's it.
Questions for Norma?
Norma, do you want to talk about the new bus that we're going to need?
Yes, unfortunately, we have 4 buses all the same year, and one of them, we found out today when he was doing the inspection that it is too far gone to repair. So I contacted our dealer for another propane bus, and if the federal government, which we'll know for sure next week, we can trade one of our buses in, one of our older buses in, towards the new bus, which would cost us almost $110,000. They'll give us $51,000 for that, but that's not a definite, but he's almost positive it is. They'll give us $51,415 for one of our buses, diesel.
So we'd be putting this into the budget as a lease, so it'd be spread out over 4 years. So it's not in the budget at this point in time, but before you guys make the final decision next week, we would be doing that. So.
And somebody asked me last time about the propane bus and fuel and all that, and I checked the gallons. We just filled it for the first time in the month that we've had it, and it had 1,190 miles on it. So it was almost below a half a tank. So it's saving us some money. And it's regularly used special transportation bus.
Tanya?
Did we research, when we bought the propane bus, did you speak to other districts who've had them and like how they are
Yep.
over time and they've been good?
Yes, they've been fantastic. Actually, we have at least 12 districts in Maine that run just propane. Mount Blue's been running them for 16 years.
Good
Bonnie
luck, though.
Eagle's completely propane. And I can tell you it sat over vacation, wasn't plugged in, and no issues at all. Maintenance-wise, it's definitely a huge savings. 2011. We have 4 of them. Yes. Yep. Next year, I would say we're going to look at at least 2 buses next year. The problem is, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. The problem is years ago, they bought groups of buses the same year. You actually should stagger them so we don't run into this problem. And that's the problem we're running into now.
Are the other 3 buses
Same year, same brand.
issue that this one that we're getting rid of?
Yes.
Or it's a rust issue?
It's a major rust, yeah. Floorboards frame on this one, which he's repaired in the past, and we just can't. This one's put out of service. He's not even going to touch it because it would just cost too much. Thank you. We have a great mechanic, by the way, so he's...
Other questions for Norma? Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just interfering because I'm finding that the echoing that's happening, it's really hard to understand. Am I the only one? There's a wicked echo so that none of the words I'm piecing it. I'm not alone. Is there some way we can correct this, Chris? It's not something I've experienced here before. We're usually all really clear, but there's an echoing to it. Thank you. That's my faith in you. Do you need me to sing a song so you'll know where it's going? No. If you want me to explain the whole book fair, I can do it. You're welcome. Is that better, guys? Is it not as good? Because I want to hear what people have to say. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Which karaoke song would you like? Can you hear me at all? The oldies. Oh, yes. Is there an echo now? Yes. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Is that good? And yell? Okay. Testing. Okay. Good evening. On the workforce front, our medical assistants will be taking their final exam tonight before they begin clinical rotations at the hospital in March. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Okay. The current group of students, they've been fantastic to work with this semester, and we wish them the best moving forward. We're actively recruiting for 2 workforce classes, our upcoming CNA course, and we have a new offering, which is phlebotomy. Both will begin in April, and interviews will be on March 17th. We're still searching for a CDL Class A instructor. The job posting is on the school website as well as our Facebook page. If you could help spread the word, share that on Facebook, that'd be great. We do need to start that program as soon as possible. It's grant funded, and we only have that money for 3 years. So I want to get as many people through as possible. And lastly, our main college and career access grant through the state included funding for marketing this year. As a collective with Mount Blue, Skowhegan, and Lawrence, we've hired a videographer to make a commercial to promote adult ed and highlight our programs, and they'll be on site next week. That's it.
Questions for Robin?
Robin, I know it's been a while, but is there any update on the grant for the old Livermore Falls building?
Yes, it's a small update. So when we wrote that grant initially, so this is a congressionally directed spending amount. It was quite literally an act of Congress to get that money, and it was designated to previously the United Way of the Tri-Valley area. They have since gone away, as did their tax ID number. So we had to go back to the federal government and say this money needs to be reallocated to another agency within our community. So the town of Jay now has authorization for that money, but we're also still waiting on guidance because a lot of people were laid off out of the HUD allocations, so we don't have a direct contact right now. So we're waiting for guidance. But yes, that went through. That money is not lost.
Other questions for Robin? Phoebe?
So, first of all, I want to wish luck to the people who are taking their finals tonight.
Thank you.
And I was wondering if you could update us on their numbers, how many passed the next time you report?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
they took a math exam yesterday. So if you're new to the board, our medical assisting class also is what they call an integrated education and training program. So we incorporate math into that. And they do that all semester long with our instructor, Betsy. So it's kind of like a co-teaching with someone from the hospital who has medical background, Betsy, who is a math guru, and they co-teach that. And so all of them passed that math exam yesterday. We integrated that because the hospital was seeing that they were taking people from community colleges or universities that had this medical background as medical assistants, and they were coming in and failing those exams. So we wanted to make sure that if we were putting out this workforce training program, that that was incorporated as well. So all students passed that, and I will definitely give you an update. Thank you.
Not a question, so take a breath. I just want to say that a lot of the time when we talk about adult education, it doesn't get the recognition it deserves. Transportation, all other departments, of course, but particularly adult education, because when people think of a school district, they tend to think of the kids. But what you're doing is changing the course of an adult's life after, you know, they've been through the school system or they've been in situations where they couldn't complete it. And I want to thank you and your staff for making such a huge difference in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Are we going to have a culinary arts program again soon?
So we will also need to hire an instructor for that as well.
Oh, we lost an instructor?
Yes.
Bummer.
Yeah.
I know we all enjoyed it.
I did as well.
Other questions for Robin?
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Okay. Good evening. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think it's a little better when we have just the one speaker, but yeah, I think they were feeding off each other. They might be too big for the room. All right, technology, wonderful thing. As you know, we've had a calling system for quite a number of years now, and it helps quite a bit to get messages out to parents, keep connected, and things like that. Years and years ago, we had School Messenger, and when another system came out that integrated with PowerSchool, which would feed we dumped School Messenger as quick as we could because it was just always a headache. And we had this Swift K-12, which worked seamlessly. Didn't ever have any troubles with it. And then PowerSchool bought School Messenger and put Swift K-12 out of business. So we didn't have a choice but to go back to School Messenger. And I tell you that story because we're starting to have some of the same issues. We're just having these random, all of a sudden people aren't getting the phone call when they should be. And so I've been working with School Messenger to try to figure out what the issue may be that's causing that. They haven't quite figured it out yet. And the odd thing is, if it was the same person every time, it would be easy, but it's random. And then when we look at the call logs, it says they answered, or it went to their machine when it didn't. So we're working with them to get that. But in the meantime, we're having principals are sending out messages to the parents to let them know to make sure they check. The email works fine as long as they have an email with us, that works great. Or to check Facebook or the website just to make sure. In the meantime, until we know for sure that the phone calls are going through to everybody. On another side, the E-rate, we've had good luck and bad luck with E-rate. If you don't remember, E-rate it's the federal program, and it allows us to buy things to keep our infrastructure going, internet, things like that, devices to run the internet in all the schools. And we get, because we're a high receiver school, the government pays for 80% of whatever we buy. So if we spend, $80,000, we get all that, and we pay about around $20,000 and get all the rest. So from E-rate. So we had 2 projects in. Last year we had a project in to replace a lot of the devices that run the internet and talk to the schools and things like that. That got approved, but because of the government shutdown, not the last one, but the one in the fall, that kind of stopped the E-rate because they couldn't approve things and things like that. The money was still there, but they just couldn't approve anything. So when that came back online, when they came back, we finally got that approved. And so we got a lot of those devices in now, and we'll start to upgrade that. So that's good news. We also had put in this year for next year an E-rate plan to try to replace the fiber that runs from the middle school is actually our hub where everything from the state comes in. And then there's a fiber line that runs from the middle school to the high school and from the middle school down to the elementary school. And then also we're hoping to get a fiber line up to the bus garage from the elementary school. That one we have not had, we can resubmit it. What you have to do, you have to submit it, and then it goes out to bid. They put it on this site, and people bid on it. We did not get a single bid to do that project. So, and it's not overly surprising because there's not a ton of people in this area that necessarily work on fiber or laying fiber down. So, we'll probably resubmit that and see if we can't get that taken care of as well.
Questions for Chris?
Me.
Elaine?
How we doing on curriculum? New English Language Arts program going well, and I know you said we're working on, is it social studies or math?
We're working on, we're working on both of those as far as just working on what lining things up for math, social studies. Science is the big one we're working on this year as far as the program that they'll adopt. I think we were supposed to meet with science on Monday.
Oh.
But we went home early, so we're going to reschedule that and meet because we really need to talk about how that's going and if that's the direction we want to go in. And then we can bring that to the board to show them what that looks like as a package. And then language arts is going well. They've been working well, and we've got our last grade level meetings coming up, March 8th and 9th. And then probably at that time too, we'll probably work a little bit on the presentation of the board from the language arts.
Now, you'd said last time that they were looking to see where the new program, English Language Arts program, especially at the lower levels, will cross over with science and social studies. And is that going to be pretty seamless to be able to do? I would think that one might dictate to the other.
Yeah, and it's we're giving them a little bit of time to get to know the program, but at the same time we're looking at that scope and sequence that came with the program, and what we're finding is that's going well as far as finding things that will match up, but we may have to shift some things.
Yep.
So I mean, one that will stay would be like My Community is a big social studies project that is for kindergarten at the state level, and that's in this program as it talks about My Community too. So that one's golden, but there may be other ones that we have to shift from a grade to another grade depending on who has what.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep.
You mentioned that you put it out to bid for the fiber.
Yeah, the way E-rate works is it's very, it's a federal program, so it's not technically a grant, but you have to fill out all kinds of forms on what you'd like. The E-rate has to approve that it actually fits the criteria of what's allowable. And once they approve that it's allowable, they post it for you to go out, and there are all kinds of companies. Usually we get calls from big tech companies in Portland and things like that because they watch the E-rate site all the time, and anything that comes up they'll tend to bid on it. We've gotten bids from out of state before for when we've looked for equipment and things like that. We knew this one would be a little more difficult because they'd actually have to install the fiber, so that would be harder for a company from Massachusetts to necessarily come down and do that. But we're not allowed to like post it ourselves in the newspaper or anything. It has to go through the E-rate site.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Is how do you advertise for that?
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, which makes it difficult because not everybody, there might be electricians around here that could do fiber, but they might not even know how to get on the E-rate site or be a part of it. You have to actually sign up to be part of the E-rate, even as a company.
So if you didn't get any bids, what's the
We can-
recourse?
We can repost it. We can have them repost it because we did it early this year, and so we have time. We can repost it for next year to hopefully get some more bids. And then supposedly, if we do it again and it doesn't get any bids, then I've never seen it happen, but supposedly they'll allow us to then go out and try to find somebody that could do it and see if they'll bid on it.
You mean like Fidium fiber or something like that?
Yeah, because technically we're not allowed to go to any company and ask them to bid. That would be breaking the rules.
Right.
But apparently if you don't get any bids after a couple of times, they'll work with you to try to find a local company that might be willing to do the work.
And do you have a time frame on that?
That would be, we'll probably know I would say by October of next year whether we get any bids or not.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions for Chris? Thank you.
Thanks.
Sharon?
Hello.
Questions for Sharon? Thank you. Jenna?
Okay, it is working. I wondered for a minute. Okay, good evening. Sherry and I would like to give a special shout out to Rob Taylor and the Blue Crew for launching a unified robotics group made up of special education athletes and their partners. In the past, we have explored creating unified opportunities at the high school level, but ran into challenges because activities were scheduled for after school. For many of our students, that time created a significant barrier for participation. By offering unified robotics during Phoenix time, Rob and the Blue Crew have removed that barrier and opened the door for meaningful inclusion during the school day. We are hopeful that this will be the start of expanding more unified programs at the high school. So a special thank you to Rob and the Blue Crew for making this happen. This afternoon, Sherry and I had a meeting with the DOE, and we received some updates regarding IDEA. And for those of you that don't know what IDEA is, it's the federal law that guarantees students with disabilities the right to a free, appropriate public education. Okay, so it's really their right to special ed and related services. Federal funding for special education is currently at 12%, not the 40% that was promised at the inception of IDEA nearly 50 years ago. This left the states and local districts to make up the difference. We were excited to hear that there are 2 bills that would increase that funding level, so we are watching those closely. As always, who knows what's going to happen, but we're watching. At this time, the special ed funding to the states within the federal budget will remain flat with no increases or decreases. But we have our eye on that. The more concerning piece for us right now is that the last time IDEA was authorized was in 2004. So changes haven't been made in a very, very long time. And there are currently 5 proposals out there at the federal level that could change small pieces of the law without opening it for major changes. However, we're hearing rumors that they might be fully opening it up. And maybe that could lead to some good things, but it could also impact our budget and planning and service delivery. You know, every so many year, big changes happen, and we have to meet those needs. So we're hoping that it's not going to be anything too drastic, and all the changes will hopefully be in the favor of our students and community and staff. So on to the 504 numbers. At the high school, there are 50 students at the high school with 504 plans. In December, there were 49. There are currently 2 referrals at the high school, and 1 referral packet has been handed out but not received back. At the middle school, there are 23 students with 504 plans. In January, there were 23. There are currently 0 referrals at the middle school, although I have heard that there might be one in the works. At the elementary school, there are 24 students with 504 plans. In January, there were 25, and there are currently 0 referrals. At the primary school, there are 12 students with 504 plans. In January, there were 11. Currently, 0 referrals, but 2 referral packets have been given out. So although there has been a little bit of movement, we've had students move in and out of district, our number for February and January remain the same at 109 total, plus 2 referrals and 3 to 4 potentials coming in.
Questions for Jenna? Thank you, Jenna. Okay, I did skip over you, Scott, but you did say that you didn't have anything. Do you?
I've been a meteor.
So, just a little update. Our lawyer, Jack Baldacci, applied for and received a grant from the Alliance for Defending Freedom for $20,000. We will have to vote whether to accept that money. I haven't brought it to a vote at this point because our insurance is paying for everything and it's not really necessary. So if that changes and the lawsuit becomes something other than what it is right now, then I'll bring it to a vote. But so that's kind of what I have for that. Go ahead.
Is there a limit on what our insurance will cover for the legal costs?
The insurance will cover the 6 groups, the 6 school districts that are being sued for a total of $250,000.
Is it still 6?
It might be up to 7 now, but not all of them are going through the same lawyer, so it could change. They also waived our deductible, so we don't have to pay anything up front.
I will entertain a motion for the second and final reading of GBO Family Care Leave.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We'll entertain a motion for the first reading of policy GBEF. I'm not done yet.
Sorry.
Employee use of cell phones and other electronic communication devices.
So moved.
Discussion. Jody?
I'm assuming that the highlighted areas are additions. Can somebody explain?
There's actually changes. The pink was mostly from the teachers. They came and shared that information with us. And then the yellow line is a change that we put in. It used to say the teachers needed to get permission, and we've changed it so they just need to notify.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to the budget. So what I'd kind of like to do is find out where everybody is with the regular budget, how you feel about what's in it, what, if anything, you might want to change as far as numbers goes. I know there's been a couple of changes. Scott, if you want to.
Yeah, you guys have the new one. It should say on the bottom, February 23rd, 2026. A couple of the changes that were made is we took Jody's suggestions with her concerns about not having enough money in the substitute lines, so we added some money into the substitute lines throughout the budget. One of the other big changes is we had made an error in benefits under special ed to actually in our favor, so it was $24,000 less. And then the big one you'll see under operation of plant district-wide, because of the new way where adult ed is being paid for from the state, we never charged adult ed to use our buildings at all because we got money for the state through the ED 279, so we were able to pick up that cost anyway. But now that they are not putting it through the ED 279 for the rest of us to have, they're sending it directly to adult ed. We took about $30,000 out of operation of plant, and that'll be in, when Robin goes over her budget, you'll see in the lines that they're picking up some electricity in our building, some of the heating costs in the building, et cetera, the insurance in the building to even that out. So, because we can't go and ask, or we don't want to go and ask less from the taxpayers for adult ed, because if we do under just adult ed, the state will give us less money. But I wanted, because that money went directly to adult ed, I wanted to save the taxpayers some money, so we were able to move $30,000 out of the regular budget into that adult ed budget. So we won't be asking any more money from the town for adult ed this year.
Thank you. So I'll start off. Just my thoughts are, I'd like to see at least one season of the esports added back in. I didn't realize that there were so many kids that were affected by that. But I do want to see a significant amount taken from the 856,000 that's still up. The summary. This is all other expenditures total, the total 856, 118, 54 is what we're up. I'd like to see that at least cut in half. Okay, other thoughts? So there's a sheet.
There's a
It's the
separate
budget
sheet.
Summary.
Budget summary sheet, this is what each warrant will, when you guys will be asked to approve the warrants, these are the different warrants.
History.
Yep, budget summary history, yep.
So the 856, 118, 54, I'd like to see that cut in half. In half. That's just my thoughts. Okay. Anybody else? Phoebe?
In the interest of saving money, we definitely want esports. There are kids who benefit greatly. So I am echoing your thought on that. I think we should cut where it doesn't affect the kids. We have our director's stipend. We know that esports costs about $10,500. Why don't we all agree to do $1 meeting for each of us? Because we're here for the kids. We're not here for any money. It lowers the budget. It gives esports both their seasons back. Why not Why don't we just do that? I'd be willing to take 0, but I know that typically they want us to have some type of stipend, so $1 seems reasonable to me per meeting. Why don't we just do that? That way we don't have to worry about adding to the budget. Our kids get what they need. We're still here doing what we've always been doing. We volunteer for the community. So why don't we just slash our director budget for the school board?
I'm just disappointed about the email that we received, because I feel like the first thing that goes on the chopping block is sports, because it gets a reaction out of people. I do not agree with it. I think sometimes that's what keeps some of our kids in school, and with the dropout rate as high as it is at the high school, I don't think we should be removing that. I do think our budget needs to be lower. I cannot go to the taxpayers with this number and feel good about it. With the assessments that were done on properties, people's taxes going up, I just don't. I think there are other areas that we could cut that wouldn't affect the kids.
I agree with Tanya, and I agree with Phoebe. I don't want to cut where the kids are affected. I don't like cutting sports. I agree too with you. I don't want to cut the esports. Again, where the kids are being affected, I'm not into it. I totally agree that we should cut the board budget. What is it called again? The stipend. Yeah, the stipend. Thank you. If it can help save literally anything when it comes to the children. Sorry if you can't hear me. I don't have the answers, but if we can save literally anything when it comes to not cutting where the kids are involved, that's what I want to do. I would love to see these numbers lower, but I don't want it to be the sports. I don't want it to be clubs. I guess I'm just mumbling now, but that's it. That's what I gotta say.
I just want to point out, if we cut $400,000 more, it will affect kids. It's people. It's going to be positions. That's the only way you're going to come up with $400,000 more. Just putting that out there.
I don't really have any suggestions to change what was already been presented to us, because it sounds like a lot of evaluation right down to the copy paper has already been assessed, and the fact that we are below inflation despite having natural benefit increases and so forth, I think we're doing pretty reasonable, and we're already pretty thin in the classroom. So I propose we accept it as is.
Hi. Obviously, I don't want anything to go from our kids. I mentioned at the last meeting, I don't want esports cut. I know there were some concerns about library and the cutting there. I have gone to Scott on 2 different occasions and been absolutely approved that there will be no cuts to direct services to kids. In other words, my number one was, what does this take away from kids? Will there still be the same resources? Classes get to go in the primary school to the library for a period of time. Somebody will be there to check out the books. Yes. At the elementary school, yes. None of that one-on-one kid time if I'm displaying this right, if I'm not explaining this right. So I can live with the library cut, because it is not affecting direct time with kids. As I have been, it's explained to me. If I've not said it right, please correct me. I was very disappointed with the email that I got that talked about cutting all JV sports. I read through it and I said, this can't be quite right. I did go to Scott and he explained it might be one sport that was mentioned, and Scott can elaborate on this. our sports are as important. These go with the kids too. And I really hate it when the community comes and says, oh, the first thing they're going to say they're going to cut is sports. We've all heard it. It's not true. I think there are places in sports that don't affect the kids that we can still cut. I'm not sure we need all the things that are in there, and I've already spoken to that. You know, the fact that I was told that we haven't replaced football uniforms in 8 years. If there is a ongoing cycling of each year, we replace every set of uniforms as we can. We have less kids playing football than we did 10 years ago. There's are ways around this. We've got to find as many places, I guess, if there are going to be cuts that are not people cuts, and I know we can't hit those numbers. I'm not going to suggest an amount to cut because I know that hurts kids. Every teacher you cut, every aide you cut, that is a paramount effect on our kids. When we look at special ed numbers and 504 numbers coming through to us, we are getting so much, we're gaining back what we lost through the time that our kids weren't here. We're getting those numbers back. That's why we're seeing those numbers, 504s, drop down. We're looking at such better behavior numbers because we have deans of students. I know some people have talked about getting rid of these positions have made great progress in our buildings for kids being able to be here, stay here, and make that time that they are here worthwhile. They're not sitting in timeout or a suspension. I don't know where we're going to do it, and I will leave the administration with those decisions to make. Right now, I can't support any cuts to this budget.
The reason that, and I just picked that number because it was half of what, but I work with the public all the time, and particularly our elderly who are on fixed incomes, and I hear them time after time after time saying, my taxes went up $1,000, I don't have any more money. I get my sister, she's on disability. Her mortgage went up $100. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're on a fixed income, it is a lot. And so asking any more of the people that I surround myself with, I just can't do it. So I just think that we need to find a way to cut somewhere where, and I don't want to take from our kids either, and I don't want sports to be affected. But I just think that we can find a way to cut some more from what's here. Maybe not the $400,000 that I mentioned, but some more.
Go ahead.
I'm all for sports. I played sports all through high school and college, and I think they're very important. But I do feel that we can, do we really need new uniforms? Or can we put that off another year? Is there other equipment that would be nice, but we don't need? And also, I have heard people say that the boosters have offered to buy balls and different things, and we don't accept that. And I don't understand why, because when I was in school, the boosters did a lot. And I know the concession stands at the games, they bring in a lot of money. And so I just think there's other places we can look and fundraisers we can do to help offset the sports cost.
I know I've already had a turn, but I have to say I have children in 3 other districts, grandchildren. I'm constantly doing something to support their boosters, and they do buy uniforms. They do buy sports equipment. They do pay for extra sessions for this or that. In Levitt, the boosters paid for the team to go to Fort Kent. The school paid for the actual lodging and gave the parents some money. Everything else, the parents transported the kids. I know in York, which is considered a rich community, it really isn't. It's a 2-level bottom and top community. They raise money for other sports every year. And I've been giving for a number of years. I think I'd like to see more for that, and so that we don't cut from our teachers. I don't want to cut from our teachers either. We have negotiations that'll be going on, and we have benefits to pay. Most of these people live here. They're here or in the communities that support our businesses. We can't do that either. We need these people. They need their jobs. I live on a fixed income. Yep, it's tough. I know in Jay it was a shock because many, many years we had the benefit of a mill, and now it's like, whoa, reality check. It sucks, but there are other things at the state level that can be done. There are other things at the federal level that can be done. Cutting our education and what we're giving to our kids, they're our future. They're the ones sitting here in 15 years. We need them, and we need to give them the best. Okay, I'll be quiet.
I was just curious, from the original budget that you got from the building and from the departments, how much have you asked them to cut so far from their budgets, Mr. Albert?
It was on that sheet, it was 600 and something thousand.
That's total
Yep.
across the board. Okay, thank you.
Across the district that we asked them to cut from what they gave me originally.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, 602,862 dollars. What she said.
Thank you.
And it's important to look at the sheet also that has the proposed revenues on it and the local funding options, what each town is going to have to pay where we are currently. So take that into consideration when you're deliberating about the budget.
It
Go
says
ahead.
proposed revenue FY27 on the top. It talks about the last 3 years of what each town has paid and what they would be required to pay. Under local revenue, where it says EPS, those numbers amounts are what the state tells us we have to raise locally in order to receive our state money, which we received $15,974 from the state. Those first three numbers is what it totals $5,434,159. That's what we have to raise as a town in order to get that money. Second section is additional local. That's what each town has to pay because we're over EPS in those areas.
I just wanted to make it clear, I do want to see some cuts. I do not want teachers and ed techs to be cut. There are other places that can be cut that wouldn't affect the students.
We talk about the budget a lot. You know, that's one of our primary functions as a board. We talk about the numbers, how we want them to be lower. Every single one of us wants to make a penny scream. That's, well, nickel now, but every single one of us doesn't want a budget to increase. We would like things to stay the same, but it doesn't work that way. We are paying people's salaries. People live here in this community. They work here. When we talk about cutting things, yes, let's look at the fat, cut away the fat. People are never that. Positions are never that. We can look at trying to find things that are cheaper. We can look at different things, but there are new regulations. We're told that we have to have food within the United States, which, let's face it, bananas are much cheaper than other fruit. Good luck finding that in the United States. We are told we have to follow all these regulations, all these rules, which is fine. You know, we're a school district. That's our job, is to follow these laws and regulations. It's our job to provide an education. It's our job to be here for the community. And we are one of the biggest, if not the biggest, employer of the community. So when we hear statements like we want to cut, that sounds great on paper. That sounds wonderful on paper. I would love that. Who doesn't want to lower a bill? No one here is going to say, I want to pay more. If they do, I'm sorry, you need to go back to math class. But when we talk about these things, we're not talking about wasteful spending. I don't know how many of us have actually gone to the teachers, gone inside classrooms, and saw a lot of them use their own money. A lot of them use resources that our administrators have worked tirelessly for. There are grants. There are so many things that we fight for. And to sit here and talk about, let's cut this, let's cut this, let's cut this, on paper, that sounds fine until you apply it to the real world. And when we do that, we're talking about hurting families. We're talking about hurting the community. We want kids to stay in this community. And then we're going to cut positions. We're going to cut things that they enjoy doing, things that make people come here to see them play. It boggles the mind. This budget, this budget, we talk about cutting things. Let's start with the director stipend. Let's apply that to the esports. That way we don't have to worry about that. They deserve a chance to play. They deserve that. And I'll take a $0 amount if that's allowable. I'm here for the kids. I'm here for the community. Everyone else, I assume, is here for that as well. I know everyone feels very passionately about our kids, about our community. That's why we're all here in this room. That's why we sat through and went through line after line after line. I know it feels like paint drying on the wall when you have to hear it, but they explained where all of these things are coming from. If we're going to ask them to cut more, we're asking them to cut things that is going to hurt. And I will not sit by and allow that to hurt. And I understand fixed income. I truly understand that. I was raised by a mother who was on a fixed income. We went without with many, many things. And let me tell you, in middle school, when you're wearing hand-me-downs from 10 years ago, that's not going to make you popular. I understand a fixed income better than some people would believe it. But I also understand the benefit that I received from a public education. I understand the benefit of every person that was in my life. Every teacher, every person I ran into in that school always had a smile for me, always had that. And when we talk about cutting more, which person are you looking at? There's not a good answer for that. There never is. So I say go back, see if we can cut different things, never positions. And I say cut our director's stipend. We don't need it. The school does. Thank you.
I am in the camp of seeing if we can think outside the box with this and see what else could be done to cut some of this out. I know a lot of elderly that are struggling out there. And I just don't think it's going to pass if we don't try every avenue we can to try to cut. And I understand what you're saying, to keep the teachers here and to keep what we have, but we need to look outside the box and what else is there that could be cut, trim down some. I just think that, this budget is pretty high, and I do feel that we need to cut somewhere. I don't have the answer of what to cut, but I think we should try looking outside the box, like you said. Maybe do fundraising for some of these things that we need. And do we really need, some of these things this year? Can we trim it back? That's it.
I would also like to just, as a quick reminder, I know I talk a lot tonight, but as a quick reminder, if we send out a budget and it gets voted down, we are legally obligated to cut, not add. So if we send out a budget and we've cut down to the bare bones and the towns decide well, they want more cut, we are legally obligated to do so. And then what are we cutting then? If we cut everything now with zero safety net, we are shooting ourselves in the foot at that point. It's dangerous. And I understand we do want things to be cheaper, but the cost of everything has gone up. It's not something that the school did. It's not like our teachers are being like, okay, let's find things that we can spend more money on. That's never been the case. Not ever. The cost of everything has gone up. We sat through the budgets line by line. They explained how much everything costs. If we cut everything to the bare bones now, what bone are you willing to lose later?
We're going to take 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and start review on the adult ed. My apologies, Robin, we're not quite ready for you. There was some folks on the side of this table that I did not see had their hands up for the discussion, so we're going to continue a little bit. Jody.
Well, I want to say thank you for everybody for going line by line, because that is really helpful when we're looking at a budget. And I appreciate that. And it was painful, I understand, but it was really helpful. I would agree with many of the things that have happened here. I do think we need to cut a little bit more just so that we have a chance of passing a budget in our towns the first go of. That they know everything you brought to us, and I appreciate you coming to us with cuts of the 600,000. I really do appreciate that, so that we can do our due diligence for the towns that we live in. But I can't go without saying I did not support the Dean of Students last year at the primary and the elementary, and I really feel like with our dropping enrollments at our younger schools, as much as I know, Pat, it's helped at the elementary school, maybe with the amount of kids that are in hard times or in suspensions. I just think adding administrative positions is a really hard thing when we're in a school district that's losing the number of students, to have 2 administrators in all of our schools. So if I were to give any recommendation, nothing against those individuals, I don't know who they are, but those were just 2 brand new positions that I was not in support of last year and that I would like to be considered for this year.
I just want to say that Town of Livermore didn't pass the budget last year. It passed because the other 2 towns passed it, and the majority between the 3 towns made it pass. I think there are places that can be cut that won't necessarily affect the children. And I think one thing that could possibly happen is combine the library and the middle school and the high school. That would be my suggestion. And with school buses having to be replaced and things coming up this year, in years to come, we really need to tighten our belt.
This isn't going to be particularly popular, but I'm over 60 years old now. I've dealt with school budgets since I was 18 and was eligible to vote on one and go. I have always heard the argument that the budget disproportionately affects the elderly and those on fixed incomes. That's not a new story. That's nothing new. But the districts have always tried to make accommodations that try to make things reasonable. Is it perfect? No, but you've got to have a certain amount of money spent in order to get things done. As far as taking a zero sum for being a director, it's like the stipend we get is a token amount as it is, and wouldn't justify minimum wage for the number of hours most of us put in the course of a year. So it amount to what, like $13,000. I mean, I'm not trying to sound selfish, but I don't know of any other community activity with this much responsibility that has zero compensation. We've had some new members on the board. I seen them ask, what can we cut, what can we get to? They've had a year to think about this, and somebody's got to make some hard decisions rather than push it back on the administrators. It's like, if you want to cut something, what do you want to cut? People want to make cuts, but no one's offering to pay things. And the majority of the budget is personnel. There's only so much equipment we can not purchase or not use. I think we're pretty efficient with what we do have. But if we're gonna make cuts, unfortunately, it's gonna have to come from people. Because that's just how an organization works. I've been in businesses that had to tighten their belts, and we just had to do more with less. And it sucks, and I understand it, but I've lived through it in the private sector, and I think if we as a board want to cut costs, that's where it's going to have to come from. And somebody's going to have to make some specific suggestions rather than just pay it off, just pass it off as like, well, we've got to cut something. Well, you've had the budget in front of you for 3 months. Find something.
When this was presented to us, it was, we can look at the budget. We've looked at it line by line this year. We know all the answers to this. The people that are in charge of, we can make suggestions that we'll all never agree on because it just doesn't work that way. We can agree that we don't want anything cut that directly affects kids as much as possible. The ultimate decisions have to be made by our administrators. We can make all kinds of suggestions. They're the ones who have to pull it off and know where it can be done. I agree that I would just as soon pass it at this number right now because we do have to have a little bit of wiggle room should this be cut down. I'm willing to leave it in the administrator's hands at this point to see what they can come up with, or make a motion to pass this.
Middle schoolers start typically around age 12 and 11, depending on when they were born during the year. High schoolers typically start around 14, 15, up to 18. Some of the kids are here past 18. Some of them are in their 20s. To suggest to cut the budget and combine the two libraries, an 11-year-old and an 18-year-old having the same books in the same room, after we heard previously how we want the children to only have age-appropriate materials in their hands, sounds like a recipe for us to close down the library entirely because of community outrage. Can you imagine an 11-year-old taking a book that was designed for an 18-year-old? I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't catch.
Have sections. Have a middle school
Madam
section,
Speaker,
high school section.
Madam Chair, can I speak? None of the books that, no, but none of the books have been taken from the middle school library that are in the high school library that I know of.
No, they were voted down, you're right. But
Yes, I
my
am.
concern is if we're talking cuts and cut and cut and cut, it's death by 1,000 cuts. How much are we willing to let our school bleed before we send it to a vote? And then if it doesn't pass, we get it back and then we cut again and again and again because we keep voting on it till it does pass. We've already cut, and we have the paper, $425,000 in salaries and benefit cuts. That is a lot of cutting already. $425,000 in cuts just in salaries and position cuts. We have everything lined up here. We've already cut $2,862. Cutting more, I understand we want to. It runs a dangerous precedent because if it gets voted down again, we're not leaving ourselves any safety net. Where is our safety net? We've always voted with the hope of having at least a little bit of padding so that if, for example, Livermore had voted down, if all 3 towns follow suit or 2 out of 3 follow suit, we go back and then we cut to the bone. But if we do that now and then it gets voted down, what are we going to do? It's a dangerous precedent, in my opinion. One I cannot support cutting further. In addition to that, I would like esports to get put back in here because they deserve their sports as well.
I just want to speak about the JV sports. I think there's a misunderstanding. No one said they were going to cut all the JV sports. It was brought up to one of our fall coaches that had very low numbers last year, and this person was told that if we have low numbers again, that we might not be able to put a team together, that we would cut that JV sport for this year. This is something that we've discussed in the past about if you don't have enough kids to run a program, then you look to cut. It wasn't about cutting all JV sports, and I don't want people in the community to think that that's what we're looking at, because we're not.
To what Phoebe is saying, I am not looking to cut the budget down to the bare bones right here and right now. I'm trying to find a number that I feel will pass when the voters vote on it, because it's not going to do any of us any good if that budget gets voted down, especially with the boiler project on the line. We need that to go through like now in order for it to be done this summer. So I'm saying let's find a happy medium that we can present to the taxpayers, that they know that we took the time to listen to them and cut some.
I also want to point out, just looking at the numbers, these are estimated numbers based on what the town's mill rates are right now. So if the budget were to pass at this amount right now, a person in J who owns a $200,000 home would pay $176 more in taxes. A person from Livermore with this new budget with a $200,000 home would pay $234 in tax, more in taxes. And those in Livermore Falls, if they owned a $200,000 home, would pay $82 more in taxes. That's if the mill rate stays the same. It's not up to us whether we move the mill rate or not. And the only reason I give that number, I'm not giving that number to think, oh, that's not a lot or that's a little, but it's for people to actually be able to hear it and understand what it means to them. I mean, when you hear $800,000, that puts everybody into a panic, $800,000. What does it mean for each individual homeowner, so that they can decide? I mean, they might think $82 is fine. They might think $82 puts them over the edge. I don't know in each home. That's what you'll never hear from me, though. That's not that much or that's too much. But I just want to put that information out so that people can make their own decisions when the time comes. Okay, I can afford that and I think enough about education to do that, or that is going to break me. And I know we do have some families that amount could break them. So I just want people to have that information.
Okay. My only response to what Scott just said was, I don't know about the other towns, Livermore and Livermore Falls, but in J, our taxes doubled last year. I mean, it was a shock when we got our tax bill. And for us to ask more of people, it's kind of rough, even if it is a couple $100 more.
Any other comments before we move on to the adult ed budget? Oh. Elaine.
I make a motion that we accept the budget as presented.
Discussion. Phoebe.
I'd be comfortable with making an adjustment to make sure that esports is covered. Like, I'm not willing to put that off the table. You know, these kids don't have anything else. They deserve that.
Yeah. I would amend that recommendation, that motion, to include the addition of one season. Does that work for you? Hey, Phoebe. One season of esports. Thank you.
Can I get a roll call Laura?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
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 Yes.
Can I get another motion?
I motion to accept the budget minus the board members' stipend. It's lower than the amount that we had been voting on previously, and I would still like half the season, at least one season, for the esports. That's my motion.
Okay, Laura, let's get a roll call. Oh, discussion. No. I think we've discussed it to death, but okay. So the budget as is minus directors, minus our stipends plus esports. One season. The budget as presented plus one season of esports minus the directors' our salaries, stipends. Okay. You got a question, Mason?
Are we allowed to do that? Are you allowed to do that? Are you allowed to serve in a voluntary capacity and not get an honorarium or stipend?
We would have to change our policy, because at the moment, the policy says that board members get $25 per meeting.
So can we change it after the fact, after we then pass, if this were to pass the budget, how would that work?
We would probably, if someone wanted to sue us, they could, because we're not following our own policy.
Thank you.
Except as board members, we take an oath not to sue our own school district, and we would be the only ones benefiting from that. Plus, we also receive benefits, so we still are receiving a stipend, just not the $25, unless we want to make an amendment for that right now, which I'm happy to do so. If you look at the budget, the directors do receive a... All right, I can adjust it to $1 if that makes it easier for everybody. I'm happy to amend that to $1 a meeting.
I mean, people, and we've had board members in the past who have donated their money back to the district, which any individual is allowed to do, but it's not it's for everybody to do that, and it's not going against policy. But it's not something that you'd put in a motion.
Phoebe, I appreciate where you're going with this, but I have a real problem voting against our own policies, which this board has done in the past, and I didn't like it then. I wouldn't do it now. So
All right.
I would suggest maybe amending that.
Okay, I will withdraw that, and I will open it up for someone else to make an amendment then, or a motion.
I make a motion that the administrators revisit the budget and reduce it by $200,000.
I second.
Discussion?
Phoebe? Looking at our budget increases, 200,000 is more than our entire transportation changes. It is more than our general instruction increase that we are requesting. These cuts that you are requesting our administrators to do, that we are as a board, is literally combining. Is literally asking for that bone cut I was warning everyone about earlier, that is cutting off a leg.
I'm just curious if she said reduced by 200,000, but are we adding esports to that? Or no? Terrible. We're just cutting 200,000.
I would like to amend that to include the esports back in, but cut 200,000.
All right, so the motion on the table is to cut 200,000 from the current budget. And Scott said he will find a way to add esports back in one season. Okay, can we get a roll call?
Yes.
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 Danielle Brotherton? No. Jody Cordes?
Yes.
Tanya Miller?
Yes.
Don Emery?
Yes.
Elaine?
No.
Sarah Jameson? No. Don Stroud?
Yes.
Andrew?
No.
Phoebe? No. Sherry?
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, I apologize. Let's move on to adult ed.
So before I go line by line, I just want to reiterate what Scott prefaced. There was a significant adult ed funding formula change that occurred unexpectedly this year. None of us knew about it. The state director of adult ed didn't know about it. There's some legislation that's on the table right now, but it has not passed. But the funding formula for us changed regardless. So please know that this is kind of a scary time for adult ed directors because we don't know if it's going to be money that is lumped in with our subsidy, whether it's going to be taken out of future grant funding for us. It hasn't been decided yet. So when we found out about this change, my initial draft budget was already in the hands of Scott and Crystal. We had to sit down many times and kind of revamp this. On the surface, it looks like this is a win for adult ed because the money is coming directly to us. But I want to point out that in the past, we were a part of the ED 279 report. So if you looked on page 2, last year it said something, and this is not the total dollar amount, so I want to be very clear, but what it said on the ED 279 is that because we served so many 16 to 20-year-old students, that generated the equivalent before proration, $540,000. That money didn't go to us directly, adult ed, it went to the general fund. So even though Scott is saying like we weren't charged rent, it was kind of like that is our rent money. So that money isn't there anymore. The real loss of this is to the district. The district is not getting that money that we would generate through adult ed. So any of the increases that you would see in my proposed budget is because that money is coming directly to us now, but we also have an increase in budget lines. Just as Scott talked about, you'll see like repairs and maintenance, a copier lease, insurance costs, so that we can kind of keep that symbiotic relationship regardless of how the funding is coming to us. Does anyone have any questions about that before I start?
how did this cut and this massive change actually happen? From where to where? Who made these decisions?
That is a great question. We've been asking that for quite a while. So I'll say
This come from the state or is this from federal?
this is a state decision.
Okay.
I sat on a committee and went to Augusta many Fridays looking at how adult ed is funded. I think we were not funded appropriately, or I still feel as though adult ed is not funded appropriately for the work that we are required to do by state and federal law. So we had talked about ways that adult ed could be funded correctly. You know, just like the K through 12, they're kind of looking at a 55%. Historically, we were looking at about 50%, but our funding formula is very different from the K through 12. So when we go through the budget, we can kind of talk about subsidy as well. Subsidy for adult ed is based on local funding. So the more support you have locally, the more money that you can get in return in subsidy from the state. So if any time we decide to cut the adult ed budget, I want to make it very clear that you will tank that subsidy. And I ran that calculation for Scott and Crystal as we developed this, like just as a what if, right? So right now we're getting $115,000 in subsidy. In 3 years' time, if we had cut, I think it was $60,000 we put in for a calculation. If we had cut $60,000 out of the budget, in 3 years' time, that subsidy check would have decreased to $83,000, and it would just keep going down after that. So anytime the budget stays stagnant for too long, or we don't increase it for like basic cost of living, whatever it may be, that number begins to dwindle down. So then you're kind of having to make so much revenue that you're eating your own costs of it.
Thank you so much.
I don't know I don't know why they made the decision that they did, especially where that legislation is still on the table. That puts us in a very difficult spot, because if this means that everything's rolled into one and we lose out on grant money, I don't know where that leaves us, but yes. So I'll go line by line if there are no questions. The first two, administrative salaries, those are contractually obligated lines. Main PERS, same thing. Professional credits, that's a cut of $2,800. We have someone that finished a master's degree and someone that's still enrolled in a master's degree, so we have some money put in there. Staff professional development, last year we put in $3,000. We're going to keep it the same. The person that went to the national conference, she was asked by the national director to go, and they gave her a direct stipend. So we didn't end up using that money, but in the future we certainly will. Repairs and maintenance, you'll see that there's a $5,000 cut there, but it's actually, you'll see it below under the overhead expenses later when we go through those new lines. Advertising, the cost for paper and printing continues to go up, and we have not completed all of that advertising for the year yet, so that line will be, that will be totally expended by the end of the year, and we added 500 there. Travel to state meetings, there are more meetings in person now than there were in previous years as we're kind of rebounding from COVID, so that we were going to put that up $100. Propane, that went down. Dues and fees stayed the same. Line 11 and 12, that is the custodian that we pay for, so there are some adjustments on that. And then lines 13 through 22, those are all lines that we put in there as sort of like our rent to the district. So you'll see repairs and maintenance, 5,000. The copier lease went up 1,000. Auto and property insurance went up 4,500. Postage, we know that went up, so that's 200. Communications, that's up 5,000. Travel up 100. Supplies 3,000. Propane up 500. Electricity 3,500. Heating oil 13,000. Yes. They're very kind about that. Line 23, so this is the administrator's salary for being the chief high set examiner. That requires a master's degree and someone that is there dedicated for proctoring the exam. The rest of the lines, no different. Voc and Work Ready, those are our workforce classes. You'll see that some of the lines there have not been expended. The 60,000, that's in line 29, that's going to be that is our CDL class. That hasn't started yet, but that will be expended. But there are no changes for the next fiscal year. Again, contractual obligations for 31 and 32 for support salaries and benefits. GED high school completion, that was already in there as the full amount for the instructors, so no change is in any of those lines under GED and high school completion. That was already local funded there. But then what you will see is the full amount for instructional costs for adult transition. So you'll see that looks like a big increase. We've put that all into the budget here that you're seeing. That's nothing being pulled out of grants for these. So you're seeing the salaries of an increase of $27,352.43. We are proposing that we have a very part-time ed tech that is helping us out. One thing that I did leave out in like a budget highlight, we served 75 students between the ages of 16 and 20 last year. So having an ed tech that can kind of help with that, as we're kind of seeing some of the students come in with lower level literacy rates, we want to be able to address that with somebody else in the classroom as well as a support person. Again, very part-time, we put that in at $6,000. And then again, the rest there, the benefits for teachers, the ed tech benefits, again, contractual, same with main PERS, supply line stays the same.
Hold on just a second, Rob. Do we have any questions on the adult ed so far?
Can you just say that number again? How many students did you service for credit recovery?
It wasn't credit recovery. It's the number of students that came to us between the ages of 16 and 20.
Okay. Sorry.
That was 75 students over the course of a year last year. Then we're on to community programs. This is for when we have classes for anybody in the community. We just want to make sure that there's a small amount there. Generally, it kind of just pays for itself, but there's no difference there. So that's 500, 50, 50, and 1,000 to make sure that that's covered to run those enrichment programs. Local literacy was the same as adult transitions. We're making sure that all of those salary amounts are in the local budget. So you're seeing those increases, but again, as we're getting that money from the state directly, that's covering the cost. There will be no additional cost to taxpayers through the adult ed budget. So I just want to make very clear that when you're seeing those spikes, it's because we've put those dollar amounts into the budget. So that looks like an increase of $30,350.82 for salaries, benefits, a little over 10 grand. You have Main State Retirement in there, no change to the supply line, and then contractual agreements for support salaries and benefits in local literacy. Do you want me to go through the revenues? Yes? Okay. So each town contributes $66,000 for the adult ed program. We are anticipating that we will make $100,000, mainly off of our workforce classes. We have some revenue coming in through what we refer to as Ed2Go. It's an online platform where students, if it's something that we're not offering in person, they can take online classes, and then some people sign up for that, and then we get a kickback when they do those classes. State subsidy, you'll see the big jump there. That is the line where I'm talking. So we're going to get $115,000 in subsidy costs. So that's calculated by looking at how much we spend in instructional, administrative, and supply lines. And it's prorated at 75, 70, and 50%, and then it goes through another proration amount. So that comes out to $115,000 plus the $150,000 that's coming to us directly to Adult Ed that is no longer in the ED 279 report. And then we have some carryover money that we're using to balance the budget this year.
Jody?
I'm just noticing on the adult ed fees, the actual is really low. Is that because everything happens like in the spring?
We have an outside, so kind of what we talked about in that meeting.
Yeah.
So we have a funder that works with our students. So Eastern Maine Development will cut us a large check once an entire cohort has gone through a program.
Okay.
So where we're still midstream with our workforce classes for the entire year, we haven't gotten that reimbursement check yet.
Okay, so that
So-
should level out similar to what it was in '25.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
absolutely.
Any other questions for Robin? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, food services. You can run, but you can't hide.
And I just want to premise for food service, no local money goes to food service, so.
Is your mic on? I'm sorry.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Salaries and wages, of course, we're going to be giving them an increase. And I also have a position that hasn't been filled in a while. I do have some interviews coming up. Hopefully, we can get that filled. Benefits, an increase in insurance. Main peers, we have one employee who is still in the main peers. Repairs and maintenance, no change. Communication and technology, no change. Travel, no change. General supplies, no change. Propane, we decreased by $1,300. That's gas for the grill. We're going to have a big barbecue this summer. Food, we're expecting a 10% increase, increase of $47,962. Also, an increase in non-food items of 10%, $2,000. Equipment, we have a decrease of $150,000. Supply and equipment stayed the same. Dues and fees stayed the same.
The 10% in food, is that an average? Or, I mean, it seems like food has gone up a lot more than that.
Yeah, it's an average.
It's an average.
Yes. And revenues, would you like me to go over the revenues? Yes? So daily sales, non-reimbursable, $3,000 increase. Refunds, no increase on that. The lunch that is paid by the state, we're expecting an increase of $40,290. Local produce stayed the same. Lunch, breakfast from the state, an increase of $118. Breakfast paid by the state, an increase of $6,821. After-school snack program, an increase of $500. Summer food program, an increase of $1,000. Grant donations stayed the same. School meals reimbursable stayed the same. Federal lunch fees, an increase of $25,839. Federal breakfast, an increase of $7,296. Food service state funding stayed the same. Fruit and veggie program, an increase of $15,000, and carryover $113,000.
Any questions for Sharon?
Yes.
40,290 is paid state lunch, a decrease?
No, that's an increase.
Okay.
Mhm. Yes.
I just question, line 7 on general supplies, our budget was 21,800, but our actual in '25 was only 3,500, and our actual in '26 was only 2,200, but we're still budgeting 21,800. What is that?
So that's like small wares. Could be like a microwave, blenders, mixers. That doesn't fall under equipment because equipment is like more expensive stuff, refrigerators, ovens. And we still have 3 months left.
Okay, just seems high to me.
Yes.
I've been on the board a while. I remember the year that we lost a freezer and that exploded the budget. We actually went over that year. So I understand the general, like, supplies. It can seem like a lot until something breaks. And then it's nightmare fuel because you have all this refrigerated good and that affects everything else, because if that spoils, you have to replace all of
the
that,
food,
which then
everything.
is the offset with that.
Yes.
I remember that. That was brutal.
It is good to have a little padding.
The other reminder with food service is anything we don't spend in food service goes back to food service. It doesn't go into the general fund, so everything just keeps cycling around just like adult ed, which is a definite advantage.
Thank you, Scott.
Any other
Okay.
questions for Sharon? Holly?
I guess this is more for Scott. So that 21,800 is for small appliances like blenders and stuff, and the equipment is for what? The freezers and
Yes.
refrigeration
Yep,
and
and
that
like
type of
like
thing
the skillet that they just got and the
Yeah,
double
yeah.
burn.
is
yeah.
under the
Yeah.
equipment.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Okay, so they are two different entities.
Yes.
Thank
Correct.
you.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, when our big freezer broke, we had to wait for a delivery, so we did have to purchase small ones, which fell under that budget at that time, just to clarify for the general public's
Yes.
knowledge.
Okay. Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, we didn't have did we have any new hires? I didn't see a pink sheet.
Nothing yet for you guys
No.
to vote on anyway.
No, okay. So we will have a meeting next Thursday, March 5th, to discuss just the budget. And the next regular school board meeting will be March 12th. Where we'll do the warrants. Can I get a motion to adjourn? All those in favor?